Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. Well, Blake is back once again, and she's asking for sanctions again. Honestly, I've lost count at this point. It might be the 7th or 8th time by now. This time, she's asking for sanctions related to the birth video that Wayfairer produced in Discovery. The same one she now claims isn't what she remembers seeing. And the moment I saw this new motion, it instantly reminded me of the smear campaign filing she just made about the Signal chats, where she argued that because certain messages were deleted, it proves malice and intentional wrongdoing. In that motion, she demanded jury instructions, sanctions, money, basically everything. But here's the interesting part. After Blake filed that motion, Wayfairer requested an extension of time to respond, wanting to do so after their summary judgment filings. And the judge said yes. Blake didn't even contest it, which to me screams PR stunt. She got her headline moment, but the actual legal response won't even happen until the end of November or December. So when I saw this new motion about Jamie Heath and the birth video, it felt like deja vu. And I want to be clear, I'm not just pulling this out of thin air. This reminds me a lot of my own experience with summary judgment in my ongoing lawsuit. In my case, part of it was dismissed and part went forward. We even filed a motion for reconsideration, which the court granted. Very rare, by the way, usually meaning the court realized there might have been an error. After that, the opposing side filed an emergency injunction trying to silence me, claiming my reporting was causing harm. Sound familiar? They denied being under federal investigation, even though we presented court documents showing that yes, there was an active federal investigation involving Robert Shin. Their entire goal was to shift the narrative, paint me as the problem, not them. That's what I see happening here. Blake's case is in serious danger. The judgment on the pleadings could end most of her claims, including sexual harassment and retaliation under FE law, which might not even apply in her case because of jurisdiction issues. On top of that, she didn't sue the right employer. Her filings never included the It Ends With Us movie LLC, and she didn't get the proper right to sue notice from the EEOC. So, what do you do when your case might collapse? You try to create a new narrative. You say, I didn't lose because I was wrong. I lost because they hid evidence. And that's exactly what this latest motion does. She's now accusing Jamie Heath of withholding the real birth video, claiming the 3-minute version Wayfairer turned over isn't what she remembers seeing. But let's be honest, Blake's memory hasn't exactly been reliable lately. This is the same person who accused over 100 people, including me, of being part of a smear campaign supposedly funded by Wayfairer. That subpoena? Withdrawn. So here we are again. Another sanctions motion, another emotional narrative. But this one crosses a new line, because if the longer video truly exists, and includes actual nudity, then what does that say about Blake's decision to make it public through a court filing? Here's what her motion says. Ms. Lively respectfully moves the court to sanction defendant Jamie Heath pursuant to Rule 37 for failure to comply with the August 27th order. The video in question shows Mr. Heath's wife fully nude during childbirth, and only a 3-minute excerpt was produced. Blake claims she doesn't remember seeing that clip, and that Jamie is willfully withholding something. But this boils down to a dispute of fact. In other words, she's trying to convince the court that this isn't a legal issue. It's a factual disagreement. And factual disputes go to trial. So her logic is, if she can turn this into a factual fight, her memory versus Jamie's, the judge can't dismiss it on summary judgment. Classic move. And here's what's so telling. Wayfairer already admitted that the video existed, provided screenshots, provided text messages, and even acknowledged that Jamie showed it at Baldoni's request as a creative reference for the birth scene in It Ends With Us. That's not hidden evidence. That's documented discovery. But now, because Blake remembers it differently, she's claiming it proves misconduct. She's reframing what's already public record into a withholding evidence scandal. Conveniently, right before major rulings that could end her case. The Wayfairer filing even said it outright. The clip they shared was a beautiful birth video, not pornography, and they included a blacked-out still to comply with privacy rules. So once again, this feels less like a genuine legal motion and more like a last-ditch PR maneuver, designed to shift the narrative from my case is collapsing to they sabotaged me, and for anyone watching this play out, you can see the pattern. Every time Blake's case hits a wall, she files a new emotional motion with dramatic claims, media-ready language, and just enough shock value to keep headlines going. So here's where things get even messier. Blake is now doubling down, again, saying the video Wayfairer provided is not what she saw. She's insisting that the clip produced in Discovery doesn't reflect the portion of the video that Jamie Heath showed her on set. According to her motion, opposing counsel told her team there was no reason to believe that the video excerpt produced wasn't the same clip, and they weren't willing to engage in further discussion without new information. Basically, they're saying, "We gave you what we had." That's it. Blake's team, however, wants the court to sanction Jamie Heath, and their list of demands is bold. They're asking the judge to order Mr. Heath to produce all versions of the birth video within 3 days of the court's order, including any footage that shows the delivery. On top of that, they want him barred from offering any testimony, written or spoken, about what he showed Blake. Translation: they want his entire side of the story silenced. If this motion is granted, the jury would only hear Blake's version, completely uncontested. Her lawyers argue that because Heath didn't produce the footage she remembers, she was deprived of key evidence needed to litigate the case. Again, this turns the issue into what's called a factual dispute, and that's the entire point. She's trying to convince the judge that this case isn't about law anymore, it's about facts. Because when there's a factual dispute, the judge can't throw it out at summary judgment. It has to go to trial. It's a strategic move, and in my opinion, a very deliberate one. The motion goes on to say that Heath's failure to comply with the court's earlier order limited Miss Lively's ability to probe Mr. Heath's recollection at his deposition. Basically, she's arguing that because she didn't get the full video, she couldn't question him properly, and that this has unfairly prejudiced her case. Her conclusion? The court shouldn't reward his alleged noncompliance, and should instead punish him by excluding his testimony altogether. Blake's lawyers also took the extra step of emphasizing that access to the birth video is tightly restricted, saying only a limited group of people have even seen it. They then added a threat that if Mr. Heath still refuses to turn over all versions of the footage, Blake reserves the right to seek even harsher sanctions later, including having certain facts legally treated as proven in her favor. That's a powerful tactic. It's essentially saying, if he doesn't hand it over, the court should just assume I'm telling the truth. To me, this looks like another preemptive move, an attempt to get ahead of the upcoming summary judgment decisions by planting the idea in the judge's mind that there are unresolved factual disputes. If the judge buys that idea, then dismissal becomes much harder. And again, it fits the same PR pattern. If Blake ends up losing, she can claim, "I didn't lose because my case was weak. I lost because they hid evidence from me." Wayfairer's response, though, paints a very different picture. In an October 29th filing, literally right before Blake's motion, their attorneys made it clear. The court ordered the Wayfairer parties to produce documents identified in their amended complaint, including the birth video. The video described in that complaint shows Mr. Heath's wife, himself, and their newborn child after an at-home birth. That video, the one shown to Miss Lively, was produced more than a month and a half ago. They also stated that they've fully complied with the court's order, and that no other footage exists that would be responsive to her request. In other words, they've already given her exactly what the judge ordered, and there's nothing else to turn over. So once again, it comes down to this. Blake Lively is saying, "That's not what I saw." Wayfairer is saying, "That's exactly what we showed her." And that's all there is. And that right there is the pattern. Blake reframing a losing legal situation as a narrative about withheld evidence and unfair treatment. It's not about what's true or false anymore. It's about controlling the story. So essentially, what's happening here is that Blake Lively's legal team is doubling down on their claim that the video provided by Mr. Heath and Wayfairer Entertainment isn't the same version she was shown on set. She's asserting that the footage produced in Discovery does not match her recollection, specifically that the segment she claims to have seen is missing or altered. Her attorneys are emphasizing that the opposing counsel, representing Mr. Heath, refused to continue discussions unless Blake's team presented additional evidence or justification. From their perspective, they've already fulfilled all obligations by turning over the video they believe to be the correct one. However, Blake's motion takes things a step further. She's now requesting that the court sanction Mr. Heath, which means punishing him for alleged non-compliance. Her team wants the judge to force Mr. Heath to turn over every single version of the birth video within 3 days of the court's order, including any raw footage or alternative edits. And here's where it gets even more strategic. They're also asking the court to ban Mr. Heath from presenting any testimony or evidence related to showing that video to Blake Lively. In other words, if the court agrees, he wouldn't be allowed to tell his version of the story, leaving Blake's narrative uncontested before a jury. That's a very aggressive legal tactic. Essentially, she's asking the judge to assume her version of events is true, simply because the opposing side didn't hand over every possible version of the footage. Her lawyers justify this by saying Mr. Heath's failure to produce additional material has deprived Miss Lively of key evidence needed to litigate the issue before his deposition. They argue that this left her unable to properly question him about what he allegedly showed her, and that this missing evidence gives him an unfair advantage. In their view, Mr. Heath's supposed non-compliance is a form of obstruction, and the only fair solution is to sanction him, exclude his testimony, and accept her account as fact. But what's really going on here is that Lively's team seems to be framing the issue as a fact dispute, rather than a matter of law. That's a key distinction, because if the judge sees it as a factual disagreement rather than a legal one, it could block Wayfairer from getting the case dismissed early through summary judgment. So in effect, this filing might not even be about the video itself. It's about shaping the judge's perception, planting the idea that there are unresolved facts, and therefore, the case must go to trial. At the end of the day, what Blake Lively is really doing here is demanding sanctions yet again, essentially admitting to the court that the material she's been given won't actually prove her case. She's saying, "I don't have the evidence I need to show I was shown pornography," even though what was shown was clearly not pornography. The logic just doesn't hold up. It's hard to believe there was some lengthy 30-minute explicit clip on someone's phone, when the alleged moment lasted barely a second before being stopped. It feels less like a real legal argument and more like another PR play to control the narrative. And honestly, this entire situation is heartbreaking for Natasha Heath. She's not even a party in this lawsuit, yet Blake keeps dragging her into it. Blake is trying to make it seem like the only reason this video is relevant is because Heath supposedly made it one by showing it to her, when in reality, Blake herself is asking the court for a nude birth video of Natasha Heath to show to a jury. Think about that. She's arguing that the footage she has isn't what she saw, and she wants a real version, effectively requesting a nude, deeply personal video of another woman under the pretense of proving her point. That's not only invasive, but incredibly disrespectful. She's also trying to reframe a powerful, intimate moment, Natasha's home birth, as something obscene or pornographic. Natasha gave birth without medical intervention, in her own home, surrounded by love and strength. And Blake's filings twist that moment into something degrading, stripping away its meaning and beauty. It's cruel. And if you put yourself in Natasha's position, it's devastating. Imagine being a private person, not part of any lawsuit, and suddenly being described in public filings as some kind of exhibit for someone else's case. To make things worse, Blake previously referred to Natasha as sloppy seconds, based on an inaccurate story about how Natasha and Jaime met. In reality, Natasha is a professional dancer who met Justin Baldoni at a dance event. He later invited her to a spiritual gathering focused on learning and reflection within the Baha'i faith. Justin and Natasha were never romantically involved. She connected deeply with the teachings, and that's how she later met Jaime. During one of their faith-based workshops, they participated in exercises about trust, emotional honesty, and empathy, looking into each other's eyes and sharing personal stories. Blake infamously described that same practice as sociopathic in interviews, mocking something that was actually rooted in emotional growth and spirituality. Natasha, for her part, has dedicated her life to helping new mothers. She's passionate about postpartum care, rooted in her South American heritage and holistic traditions. She radiates kindness and support. To see her name used this way to humiliate her is beyond unfair. So yes, this filing feels like revenge, not justice. Blake appears to be lashing out at Jaime and Natasha because her case is falling apart. The so-called evidence doesn't prove her claims, and she's trying to distract from that by targeting people personally. The audio from Steve Sarowitz doesn't show abuse or misconduct. It shows Jaime under immense pressure, trying to protect the film's release from further damage. This whole motion seems like another attempt to punish and embarrass people who have already been dragged through enough. And honestly, I think most people can see through it. Natasha deserves compassion, not public humiliation. Her story, out of love, faith, and motherhood, is beautiful, and no lawsuit should take that away from her. On the procedural side, the judge also issued a final judgment on a separate issue. He denied the New York Times request to fast-track an appeal. The court ruled that there's no prejudice in waiting until all outstanding motions, like the attorney's fee disputes for Leslie, Ryan, and Blake, are resolved together. In short, no one's appealing anything yet. They have to wait until the entire set of rulings is finalized. So that's where things stand. Blake's legal strategy looks increasingly desperate. Another swing at controlling the story, another filing aimed more at headlines than results. What do you think? Is this just another attempt by Blake to shift the spotlight and rewrite the narrative? And honestly, besties, the timing of this entire filing couldn't be more telling. Every time there's a dip in public sympathy or a wave of backlash online, Blake's team seems to drop another motion. One that sounds less like a legal document and more like a press release disguised as a lawsuit. You can almost predict it now. A negative headline comes out. Boom. Another emotional filing full of half-truths, twisted language, and carefully worded outrage. But judges don't play by the rules of PR. They don't care how something sounds in a headline. They care about facts, evidence, and law. 3 things Blake's team keeps coming up short on. This motion, just like the others, hinges on painting Blake as a victim of everyone else's misconduct. The directors, the producers, even the court system itself. But here's what's really happening. She's trying to set up a narrative cushion for when her claims don't hold up. That way, she can say, I didn't lose because I was wrong. I lost because the system was unfair. It's the oldest Hollywood strategy in the book. Shift the blame before the verdict drops. But this time it's not working. Wayfairer's legal team, from what we've seen, isn't taking the bait. Their filings stay focused, measured, and fact-based. They're not feeding the drama. They're quietly dismantling it. And that's what scares Lively's team most. Because when the noise dies down, only the truth remains. And if you look at the pattern, there's something even more troubling. The repeated use of private individuals as pawns in her legal and PR war. Natasha isn't the first, and she likely won't be the last. It's the same tactic we saw with content creators and journalists who were subpoenaed just for discussing the case. Over 100 people, threatened with legal action, all for talking about public information. That's not just overreach, that's intimidation. It's as if Blake's team believes they can silence critics by making an example out of them. But here's the irony. The more they try to control the narrative, the more it spirals out of their control. Public opinion isn't bending anymore, it's breaking away. People are waking up to the fact that this isn't about harassment or justice. It's about ego and image. And the judge? He's starting to make that clear too. With each ruling, the message gets louder. This court isn't your stage, and your fame won't protect you here. If Blake keeps pushing, especially with emotionally charged filings like this one, she risks crossing a line she can't walk back from. Contempt of court. And if that happens, no amount of PR spin will undo the damage. Because once the court starts questioning your credibility, it's over. Every motion, every statement, every accusation, all of it comes under the microscope. And when that happens, what's left? No proof, no evidence, just noise. So as this drama unfolds, one thing's becoming crystal clear. The legal mask is slipping. What started as a case about harassment has turned into a battle over who can control the story. A battle Blake? Lively might be losing faster than she realizes. Or do you believe she's genuinely convinced Wayfairer withheld evidence? If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, besties. See you in the next one.